again, we just really appreciate the opportunity to come together with our professional advisor partners and share a little bit of learning and some information about what's going on at the foundation. And most importantly, just the opportunity to reconnect with you and to thank you for the work that we're able to do in partnership. So again, we have the opportunity across our region to connect with professional advisors that are taking the time and using your wisdom and expertise to share charitable opportunities. And I know we're going to hear some really great ideas from Pat. She's really, she could wear the sash, charitable advisor, ask every client I think she works with, you know, do you have charitable goals? How can I help you achieve those charitable goals? And we do greatly appreciate that from Pat and many others that are in the room. And those who couldn't be with us today as well. So my name is Kay England. I am the president and CEO of the foundation. I think I know all of you very well. I'll be celebrating my 11th anniversary here at the foundation. We have such an awesome team that works so hard to support our donors and our affiliate partners and our volunteers and to do all the good, cool, fun stuff. So just a couple highlights, and Derek's going to share a little bit more with you later as well. But a thank you, especially to those volunteers that are in the room that serve our foundation, the investment committee, of course, which is really core to the work that each of you are doing. We have a group of volunteers that serve on our investment committee that's chaired by our board chair right now, who is Rashonda Young. She wasn't able to be with us today. But Matt Monahan is here with us today. Matt has been on our investment committee for many years. Jason Hassman is also on our investment committee. Of course, Pat Monat, she was on our board of directors and now still continues to do work on our investment committee team as well. And I think Christy Brown was maybe going to join us virtually. I'm not sure if she's on there or not, but Christy's also, I saw her on the RSVP list. So we've got a group of about 15 individuals that are in professional roles like yours that do step in and partner with us. Marquette and Associates is our consulting firm that we work with. Some other high-level updates, I guess, would be that as our assets continue to grow, what's exciting about that is that we're able to turn those into charitable impacts across our region. So this, as I said, we're celebrating our 68th anniversary. Our assets are 162 million, or exceeding that a little bit, which again drives our grant making, which is around 8 million or so a year. And our overall history of grant making throughout our region in our history is 130 million plus. So again, everything we do is to make those grant making impacts, including how we manage the charitable dollars that we're blessed to manage. Then I think Derek can also put in the packet, it's this one here, information about kind of an overview of our investment portfolio, where allocations are laid out, and then also return history for the last 5 to 10 years. Last year, we didn't have these numbers, I think, when we met in January at our breakout session then. A little over like 9.1% was our return net of fees last year. So we had a good year last year. So again, I'm going to just go ahead and turn it back over to Derek Kimball, our Director of Charitable Impact. And again, thank you for your time today. And we look forward to learning from Pat.
Yeah, thanks, Kay. As Kay said, I'm the Director of Charitable Impact here. My name is Derek Kimball. I've gotten to know some of you, but not all of you, but getting to work with you, with your clients, or, you know, kind of brainstorming some things we can do around charitable impact. And I was meeting with Nick here just a few weeks ago and talking with some ideas about how we could really help equip you and work alongside you to equip your clients with the knowledge that they may not have around giving charitably. And one of the things I was able to share with Nick, which was really kind of interesting timing, was Nick lives in Grundy County. And we got a pretty large estate gift from a person in Grundy County that was unrestricted to the foundation when he passed away. Very generous gift that now Grundy County is going to have about $30,000 more every year to grant out into their community because he had a relationship with not the person's not in this room, but somebody like you that was able to say, this could be something you could do with your legacy. And that gift was nearly $750,000 that he left to the community foundation, which was just like really cool news to get to share with Grundy County and that committee, because we have nonprofits asking us for grantable dollars, and we don't always have enough. Well, in fact, we never have enough to be able to get to that. And so to be able to help close that gap is really, really kind of neat. So really appreciate you being here and the opportunity to work with you and all that you do in the community to lift up those opportunities for charitable impact. So thank you for that. Let's see, we are doing a little bit of a revamp of our newsletter. If you are not on our newsletter for professional advisors specifically, let me know. And you'll be receiving an email from me after this. Let me know if you're not on that, because I think there's some really valuable content that we'll be sending out that will really help equip you to be able to share that with your clients. So you know about that. July 16th and October 8th. Those are the two remaining events, professional advisor events for this year. So if you don't have those marked down, I'll put that in the email as well out to you. So you don't have to write it down right now, but plan on being here for those. We are still looking for some speakers to share about the work of being a professional advisor. And so if you have ideas of people who might be really great fit for that, or topics that you'd be interested to learn more about, that's not really my lane to understand, like what is really going on deep in the charitable or in the financial advising and other professional advising sector. So I would appreciate if you have thoughts or ideas of, this is something I would really love to learn about. That feedback would be great for me to be able to see who I can recruit to speak about that. So let me know.
Are you able to do it virtually? Have a speaker virtual?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. Okay, and then lastly, there's a lot of food left, so please feel free to get up during Pat's presentation and grab some more food. Bathrooms are around out those doors and around to the right if you need those. So okay, so Pat has been a certified financial planner since 1990, and she brings over 35 years of sound financial planning expertise or experience with her clients as president. She specializes in portfolio management, retirement income strategies, and wealth preservation. She works closely with clients, attorneys, CPAs, and other professionals to assure every opportunity is considered. Pat has been a board member here at CFNEIA for a while now and has also served as chair of the board. She's a member of the Blackhawk County Estate Planning Council. She lives in rural Jessup. I'm also from Jessup, so I know good people come from there. And she enjoys the country life.
Yes.
So thank you, Pat, for being here, for all that you do. Appreciate it.
Join us.
And
Old people have to have a glass. Anyway, well, before I go anywhere, I want to know how everybody's brackets turned out. Did anybody have a bracket in the women or men? Men? We did it at our office. Michael ran it, and I totally bombed out because I had Iowa State to go all the way. And you won it, didn't you? Because you had UConn.
Just
And did you have the women's? Did you have Iowa women's though? I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're not a grad.
Yeah.
Well, you better have. But what an awesome thing for women's sports too, right? We were just talking about there's probably more people watching the women's than at the men's. So
Yeah.
exciting.
Oh,
So yay. Pretty cool. Anyway, so I got the agenda, I guess, and printed the agenda too. So I'm going to talk about, I did some of this at the Blackhawk County Estate Planning Council, but I thought I'd go over some of that and then some ideas and how we implement some of these things for planning. So it's a pretty casual event. So, never. So if you just go to the first page, I'm just going to hit a little bit on the Secure Act 2.0. We're tired of hearing about that, but obviously they changed and deferred out our distributions, which changes our planning with our clients hugely. So it required minimum distributions. Anybody that thought they'd have to do it at 72 went out to 73. Everybody's got that page around. And then all you young people get to go out to 75. So pretty awesome. Then They did, it does not, one thing that when our planning with clients didn't affect their 401k plans, if they're still working, they could defer that out. Surprisingly, a lot of people like myself keep on working. Anyway, so when I circled, big one was the charitable inclined IRA owners. So we have a lot of clients that are charitably inclined. I don't know if you just draw those kind of people in because you are or how it is, but people get to a point in their life when they've made a lot of money and they've done very, very well. The kids are successful, and then it's the time to talk about charitable ideas. And no matter what, if it's a tax break or not, if they're charitable, they're charitable. I think everybody kind of knows that. So we try to always come up with great ideas that we can help them with. But the QCDs for charitable distributions, surprisingly, there's a lot of people that get confused on that date. Now that they deferred it out, they feel like, oh, now I can't do that till I'm 73. I'm like, no, 70 and a half is the magic number. And you can do that no matter what, once you're 70 and a half. So put that on our agendas. And I just, for the heck of it, I put down the dates of when you were born, so you knew which age you defer to. It's easy for me to remember that by their birthday. So I just plugged that in there. Some of the planning opportunities I think came because of this deferral. It helps you to delay those RMDs, so we can talk to clients about Roth conversions. And consider doing a Roth conversion before you have to take out your RMDs, or maybe before if you're retired early, maybe before you start taking your Social Security income. So we sit down with clients and talk about opportunities they may have in front of them to do Roth conversions. Because, back in my day, we didn't have Roths. So we could put into a Roth, and we all put into our retirement accounts, pre-tax dollars, pretty much. And then you get to the point where you can't do a Roth because of maybe your income stream. So we've done a lot of Roth conversions. We got this idea from friends over at Northwestern Mutual, Ballista Plan, which is a piece of software that we've used and works great. Michael runs some of those, but it's a software system that uploads your tax return. Anybody here use Ballista Plan? We stole that from Steve Yerkes, doesn't we? Yeah, it works great. And so you just upload the tax return, and then it, fills in the software piece for you. And then you can start doing some what ifs. What if I want to do a Roth conversion of so much dollar amount? How does that affect my Medicare income stream and what I got to pay for Medicare Part B, premiums, because people get upset about that when it's a surprise. But so it does a really neat system of printing off a great report for accountants. So you can print off a separate report that goes to the accountant. You can do a ton of what ifs, and you can kind of play around with the program to see what makes the most sense at their tax bracket if you want to fill that up, or if you want to make some other changes. And now that there's zero tax in the state of Iowa, it's really awesome. So we do a lot of projecting out with our clients on Roth conversions. We project out on some spreadsheets we've done for clients on what their RMDs are going to be down the road, which helps them see reality, because I'm sure you guys have seen that when they see what they have to start taking. They defer it all. They start to go into shock because they can't believe that that's what they're going to do, and why are they telling me what I have to do? Right? So I love that system, and we probably don't use it as much as we should. It just takes time to get all that stuff done. But
It's state specific, right? So they know you're in Iowa.
correct.
And then this 55 plus, that Roth conversions aren't, from traditional to Roth
Right.
conversions aren't counted as, it's excludable from
Yeah.
Iowa income tax.
Right.
Yep, that's really cool.
It is a very cool software piece. So if you get a chance, just look it up. I think it's awesome planning. Okay, so one of the things that I think clients always forget that we try to remind them of is that the RMD has to be taken out before you do a Roth conversion if you're of RMD age. That is something that they get confused on. And I don't know if you guys have it where, we think as financial advisors that we have all the information, but they never always share everything. So we've become very specific about saying, hey, we need to know every IRA you have, even if it's with some other investment person, let's put this all in the system, or we don't know what the dollar amount is that you've got to take, because maybe it's better to take it from one versus another. And I think our clients are pretty darn good about that. If you explain why you need tax returns, why you need that information to do a really good plan, and if you're giving them good sound advice, you need everything. So that's one of the things I think that our clients have gotten pretty darn good about. So, and then the thing about being the tax that increases their Medicare premium, be careful of that because that income changes when you do a Roth conversion or take extra income. And I always discuss qualified charitable distributions out of their IRAs. You'd be surprised. I'm sure you guys run into this too. The people today that still write checks, that shouldn't because they're using a standard deduction and you can't itemize. So giving out of your IRA to a charity is best, and once they get used to that, I'll never forget. I had a client, sweetest little thing in the planet, gave so much to her church every year, fill out her church card, what do you want to call it, donation card thing. At the beginning of the year, I sat down with her and her daughter and said, you got to stop writing checks because we're going to give this out of your IRA. And she had a large IRA account because her husband had passed away. So it was all in her plate. Man, was that a difficult thing to do because, so we got it all done. We got it out to the church. We talked to the church secretary, made sure what time of the year it was the best to get it out to them. Her card was fulfilled. She got a copy of that. And so fast forward about July or August, we're discussing things again, going through things. And her daughter calls and said, you got to talk to mom because she's still writing checks to the church every week.
Yeah.
And so we sat down, we talked about it. And you don't want to hurt their feelings, but we talked about it. I said, so why are you writing checks? Because otherwise, when they pass the basket, they don't think I'm giving. So we made a phone call to the secretary of the church and we said, here's an idea. Can you guys do something that when these people that do this, when you pass the basket, you put a card in or something that says already gave? Sure enough, they did it. And so a couple months later, we talked and visited. She goes, oh my gosh, now we're doing these cards that I can give in the basket. And I stopped writing checks. I just want you to know. So, I mean, it was this embarrassment of her friend sitting next to her that she had to, put her envelope in. So I'm like, but
She
anyway,
could teach a few things to other generations though, too, by her persistent giving.
Yeah.
I know she's a wonderful
Yeah.
lady and you didn't want to hurt her feelings, but
Yeah.
she felt guilty because her friends would know that she's not giving. But yeah, so, and I think they even did on the card, I gave, but it was, I'm like, great. And the secretary came up with the idea then after I talked to her and she got it done. So fast forward, she's still doing them out of her IRA. So that was a good thing. So in 2023, we had the 50,000 one-time qualified charitable distribution to a charitable gift annuity or charitable remainder unit trust or charitable remainder annuity trust. That is now 53,000 in 2024. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, that they're indexing that each year. If I talk fast, it's only because I just talk. Anyway, so slow me down if you need me to. And then the QCD limit, I had a client the other day that didn't realize this because I didn't talk about it. That is 100,000 and now this year it's 105. So we're doing 105,000. Just have to get it out there and talk about it. But we're going to talk about this crew here about doing something as a fund that it can go into instead of constantly coming up with places we're going to give this money. So that's where the community foundation comes in, where you can have one bucket where it can go and direct from there. And they're pretty excited about it. So,
Hey, Pat,
yeah.
on that one, the 50,000 is now 53. Is there an age? Is that also 70 and a half then? Or can younger than?
That's a great question. I thought it was 70 and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. We can check. I'm pretty positive it's 70 and a half. Okay, so I can look that up for sure.
Oh, don't worry.
Do we have any CPAs in the room? They don't even want to know. So then they did change the 10% penalties and made some new expanded exceptions. So I plugged those in for you. But there's a few things I thought should be thrown out there. The age 50 exception is expanded to include private sector firefighters and public safety employees with at least 25 years of experience with their employer sponsored plan. I don't know how many people have firefighters or public employees. New exceptions are allowed for federally declared disasters. I think that's because we've had so many of those. Terminal illness, domestic abuse, financial emergencies, and qualified long-term care distributions. It's so funny how they do this, but it's so limited. Withdrawals from pension-linked emergency savings accounts are also penalty-free. And those accounts were created to, I believe, to try to separate people from thinking their 401k plan was an emergency fund also to get them, you know, that's a long-term investment. And then you have short-term investment dollars, and they would put the emergency pension linked emergency savings account in there. I think to me, that was a differentiation. They're trying to make people stop spending their 401k plans as an emergency fund. Anybody do those? Anybody have any plans that are in there? I mean, I think the administrative plans for the administrators have to get that put in, but the silly part is it's so limited. You can only put in so much into there. I think that the plan administrators can limit that amount, or the employees can administrate how much can go in there. I think it's, I want to say it's like 2,500 if I remember right, but it's not a lot. And then it's limited how much you can take out. But it's an attempt to try to get people to stop spending their retirement dollars. So I just plugged in like a cheat sheet of the 10% penalties that are exempt. I know the one that I've used before is terminal illness. But if you have a life expectancy under 7 years to 2 years this year, you can use that and then pay it back within 3 years. So we're talking about maybe that's something we might need to use. But the federal just declared disasters, if it's your homestead, it's 22,000. Domestic abuse, it's 10,000. These are all effective this year. Financial emergency is 1,000. And they say it's self-certifying. So I looked up that to see what self-certifying really means. And it's just that the administrator is going to take your word for it. Self-certified. And then on the other page that apply to plans only, they're the same as some of those that were. Obviously divorce, quadros, those pension linked emergency savings accounts, long-term care, $2,500 effective in 2025 to help pay for long-term care premiums. You know, and then there's also, or 10% of your vested balance inflated for, you know, index for inflation. So there's a lot of things, I guess, that are, may not come to your plate ever, but could be something somebody might need to use. And then on the only ones on IRAs, that are only on IRAs or SEPs or simple IRAs is obviously the first time home buyer, 10,000, health insurance if you're unemployed, which I can't believe you can be unemployed in the world today because there's so many job openings, and higher education expenses. Just a few. Okay. And then I kind of spelled out on the next page that pension linked emergency savings account. I put out the details on there if you want to read through that. Those are, to me, designed to help people stop doing some of the things they're doing. But it is capped at 2,500. I thought that's what it was. And it also counts towards your maximum contribution you can make to your 401k plan limits too. So interesting. Better to get them to start saving in a bank account, correct? That is what's happened. After tax. So questions on any of that? Any other? And some random stuff I threw out here I thought would be good to just touch base on. Obviously, the 401k plans now have no RMD, just like Roth. You know, the Roth 401k plans don't, just like Roth IRAs. And a simple one, a SEP, obviously, we all know can do a Roth now in their plan. And then the matching employer can also be directed to the Roth side of both the 401k Roth, SEP, and simple. It's deductible for the employer, but it is taxable for the employee because you're putting in it obviously after tax dollars. And that nightmare rule, which we talked about at the Blackhawk County State Planning Council meeting, that, you know, they had to do those catch-up things on the Roth 401k plan for highly compensated employees, has been all deferred out to 2026 because a lot of the plan administrators were just going nuts, trying to, they don't have them in their plans built for that. So because of persistent complaints from record keepers and plan administrators, it was evidently delayed out to 2026. Great idea, but nobody knew how to implement it. Makes sense? Rules get made, and how are we going to make this work? One thing that, you know, John, you and I talked about this. I can't remember where we were talking about that because this is an example of, you know, with the Roth side. So because we didn't get to do Roth, I've been maxing out my contribution from my 401k plan on the Roth side. I think I'm gonna just get some Roth money, you know, kids want to go have some fun. You know, I don't have to be told what to do. Anyway, and thinking we're going like, okay, now we pay zero tax in the state of Iowa on distributions.
If you're 55.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me. You. Yeah.
We won't say how 55
Yeah.
and over, yeah. But so we were talking about that, like, why would we not go back to pre-tax dollars if we're charitably inclined? Get a pre-tax dollars going in, zero tax. Fast forward, flip it out to the IRA, and now I can give it as a donation and a QCD after 7.5 tax free. Why would I not do that? I'm missing out on paying federal tax and, on something I don't need to, or state tax too. So kind of like flip your mind to the reverse. So if you have some clients that are like that, and I've been kind of like going through my list thinking, yeah, that makes total sense. If they're still working and they're maxing out the Roth, maybe we should change that and go the other way for those charitable dollars down the road.
Charitable dollars or to do conversions.
Right.
If they have traditional IRA
Yeah.
money.
And it's zero state.
And you get the zero state, you get the deduction on what's going into your 401k.
Yeah.
So while you're still employed.
Yeah.
That can work.
So we were talking about that one day. We're like, yeah, this just makes sense. So then the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, I should be doing this. So, it's never change. That's what's so fun about this business. It's never changing. I mean, it's always changing. It's never the same. Everybody's different. And then when you share with some of your colleagues' ideas, you're like, bingo, that's a great idea. So, I'm doing that myself. So when we kind of do that with some of our clients, as far as like, we know they're charitable. We know that they're going to eventually use some of this IRA money to do some of that. How much are you wanting to use? How much should be converted to a Roth? How much should we leave in the IRA because you're going to do charitable distributions? So it's kind of a fine line, but I mean, you'd be surprised the stuff that people come up with, what they want to do in their life, what their passion is when you start talking about that and showing them that they're not going to, hopefully not run out of money. Hopefully. Questions on that? Okay. 529s, I mean, you guys know about this good stuff. We made some good changes to 529s. I have people that still ask, I'm sure you do too, should I contribute to my grandchild's 529? Yes, is the answer on that one. Control, for one thing. State deduction, that depends on your state income tax rate now. If your beneficiary is your child or your grandchild or whoever, grandparents make the greatest givers of 529, right? If they're going to attend a private grade school, obviously they change that back a ways, grade school, high school, or private school. You can use it for that, tax-free. College is so expensive. I mean, what's college going to cost when they go to school? I mean, wouldn't it be great if they got scholarships and paid for it all the way and we had all this money at the end? That's a great problem to have. Come up with something to do with it. So I promote 529 college savings plans a lot. And I have a lot, of course, my age, because I've been doing this for long. A lot of my clients are the grandparents that have money.
And I think the grandparents that doesn't penalize the student from a
No.
FAFSA standpoint, but
'Cause it's
parents
like-
doing it, I
It
think
does.
it's counted, right?
So keep it in the grandparents or their favorite uncle or something,
Yeah.
or aunt. But that's a good point. Anyway, and then starting in this year, 2024, a lot of you probably already know this, that if you have leftover money in your Roth, your 529 plan, and you didn't use it for college, maybe you're 35 or 40 years old, you aren't going to pass it on. You just want to do something with it. You can start converting it to a Roth. So that's untaxed. And that has its limits. Anytime we give something good idea, then we limit the crap. So, yeah, so the limits I put on here for you. So to me, it's a good thing. The maximum amount that can be rolled over from 529 to a Roth IRA is 35,000 in your lifetime. That's today's rules. So, and there's no current indexing for inflation on that, as far as we know. That's a lifetime maximum. And it's to be interpreted if it's per beneficiary. So that's still some gray area out there. So if grandma or grandpa has one, I'm sure it's been flipped over or something along the way, that beneficiary can do a Roth conversion over a period of time. Then they further limit it to your amount of your Roth contribution that year. So if you're under 50 and it's 7,000, you could do 7,000 this year. So we have running out of a window because April 15th is coming up here pretty fast, but you could do a conversion for last year and this year. Counted for last year's contribution for 7 and 7 for this coming up. So we have a little window to do a couple of them. But it'd be pretty hard to figure out which clients maybe want to do that. But I think that's huge. So over time, you can get 35,000 converted over to a Roth. I still think they're a great idea because if you keep it in your family tree, you can go down to, like, so we're picking on Michael because he got a brand new baby's gonna be coming down the road. Or we got a new one over here, 3. So if we got, we set up college savings plans. So if that child doesn't use it for their whole lifetime through college, they get married, they can use it for their kids. They can, keep on flipping it. They can flip it. I did this with my kids when they started coming out. We did 529s and my middle one got a lot of scholarships. Flipped it to the youngest one. So you can flip it within your family tree. Once you get married and you're off of here, you got a different tree. But so I think you're going to use them. I mean, I can't imagine that you won't use them. Maybe they're going to go back to get their master's or their doctorate. Still can use it. So I really feel like when I hear clients say, well, what if they don't use it? They'll use it. And they don't a lot of times know how much grandparents don't know how much college is really costing today. It's very expensive. There's a lot of bill or expenses that qualify for the tax-free distribution. So
Penalty's not that great either, I don't think. I mean, you didn't get a deduction on your federal taxes anyway on it, so it'd be on the growth, right?
yeah,
I think it'd be a
tax
10% penalty.
If
probably,
you
in
took it out
addition to the
early,
tax To take it,
Yeah.
if you just took it back yourself. Seems like it's something like that. And then how
Yeah.
they figure out the state income tax savings that you got.
yeah.
The state.
And it depends on who is, if you're paying taxes in the state, you get a deduction or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the state income tax deduction depends on the dollar amount you put in. There's a maximum each year.
It's over 4,000 now.
Yeah. Has anybody used 529s for their planning?
Yeah.
I love it. And they're also a way I think that you could do a little bit of estate planning and, get it out of an estate over to a different family member. So then I just did an example of like Tony enters college. This is what I talked to a couple of my clients about. He's got 100,000 as 529, very nice grandparents. $75,000 contributions over the last 4 years. And Tony uses up 80,000 and 529 plans for qualified expenses. Under this code, from my understanding, the excess 20, he could convert to his raw under those conditions over a period of time. So I think you're great. I think it's a good idea and a good opportunity. I think we talked kind of about this stuff already down below. Okay, the fun. I'm not a huge big Medicare person. We have somebody in our office that does all the Medicare supplements because I hate health insurance. Just makes people mad. But I was reading I read ARP magazine, so I know what my clients are reading. Right? Not that I love reading ARP, but they're reading this stuff. We better find out what they're reading. So I did a little homework. But here's what's scary. And then I'll talk about some Social Security issues that are going on. I don't know if you guys have heard about Peak 65. The monster wave that's happening 2024 through 2027. Us old people. So 11,200 Americans are going to turn 65 every single day starting this year through 2020. I thought I was a big baby boomer, but it's not. Not me. It's a group behind me about a few years. 4.1 million, according to ARP and the Council on Aging. 4.1 million Americans turn 65 every single year. That's giant. Think all those 401k rollovers. But they're all retired. I don't know if they're going to retire 65, but they're turning 65, starting out in waves. And it's a milestone for Medicare applications. So if you have clients that complain and yell, it's like 3 months waiting and they're on the phone for 3 hours and blah, 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 the phone to Medicare. This is why, because it's gone crazy. And it's just the start of this monster wave. And the system is, according to Medicare, the system is just being bogged down and wait times are over 3 months when you send your stuff in. So talking to one of our associates, Kathy, who does that, clients will send their applications in early so that, they're thinking 3 months out and they're still on the pile 3 months later waiting to get processed. So we finally got through on a phone number to somebody in New Jersey. And she said, we are so far behind. And then finally, we had to have these numbers back. She had to get her card back. They were traveling south to be gone. So she said, let me hold on a minute. She somehow pulled her stuff up to the top of the pile, got it processed, and was done within a week. So she said, not necessarily doing it ahead of time is going to be good because we do it by when it's due. And I said, so what are you guys gonna do? And then she started talking about this nightmare. But what are you guys gonna do? Well, they don't have the staff as they used to. They just don't have that many employees like they did. And she herself said, you don't always get the same answer from everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is kind of a scary thing. And, you know, Medicare offices have less people working in it. Social Security office has less people working in it. So I think it's a huge monster that's coming down the road. When you talk about going in the Social Security office to get applied for Social Security, these are the same people that are looking at taking their Social Security benefits. So it's going to be nuts. So I guess, you know, maybe we get past 2027 won't be horrible, but that's just a mob of people moving through the system here in the next 4 years. Think of all the fun stuff. All the fun charitable planning you can do. Anyway, so then I just plugged in some notes on mistakes, and I pulled this off of, I don't know if anybody, you guys probably subscribe to Ed Slott's newsletters. Anybody here? Great newsletters. I plugged in, look at Heather Shriver's of Medicare and Social Security newsletter. She has great stuff. So I printed off this last one that has all this stuff on the penalties if you make too much money or have too much income, COBRA, what the increase in indexing for inflation estimates are. It's got a great little cheat sheet. I printed that off because that just came out long ago. But I love their newsletters, their stuff. Good information. Okay, so some of the biggest mistakes I see on Social Security because of this monster wave that I feel they're going to get worse. We try to talk for clients into setting up their logins early. Set up a login for your Social Security early. Look at your numbers. Make sure that they're correct, that your income matches what it's supposed to be, because you'll have your average annual income in there. Look at that stuff. Read through it a little bit. Go online, make sure it looks like it's correct. Check for errors. I can tell you a great error that happened to one of our people. Not understanding their full retirement age. When you say, well, this is, do you know your FRA, the full retirement age? And they're like, no, I don't. Well, let's talk about that. And what significant their earnings record has on that. Because if your earnings record's wrong, it takes forever to get it fixed. I've had somebody's wrong before. And they should apply early and continue to work. Get in there and get their stuff. What if I want to apply early and continue to work? Do you know the earned income penalties if you do that? You got to talk about that. You reduce your benefits. If you take, Social Security income early and still work, there's a problem before full retirement age. If you wait till the very end at 70, you can get 24% more benefit. But everybody's different. I think that's a big thing you have to go through your client. Do you want to have Social Security, guaranteed income? You want to preserve your investments over here for yourself? What is your life like? What do you want? And that's a hard decision to make. But if you run a couple of different ways, and I don't know if there's any wrong decision or right decision, but what if you start at the wrong age? You start early, then there's a permanent reduction, which is okay. That's fine. Sometimes we take it early if one spouse is, making way more than the other one. We'll take it early on the one that's, going to retire. Maybe the spouse is going to continue to work. And so when this spouse applies for Social Security at full retirement age, you get a bonus, you get a bump up too. Used to be a lot more planning opportunities, but they butchered us on those a while back. And no use waiting till after age 70 because you don't get any more increases. The earnings stats, I thought I'd throw that out because I think a lot of people don't understand that. If they want to go back to work, I love people that go on Social Security and then they come back into your office and go, I'm bored. I'm going to go back to work. Good, you can work for the Social Security office again. Man, I'm proud of you. Please, yeah, go there. But I put the earnings test in there, so that's how much they can make without butchering their Social Security check if you're penalized if they're not full retirement age. So 2024, that's $22,320 a year. And it's a dollar penalty for every $2 over the amount. And in the year you turn full retirement age, this year, 2024, the exemption is $59,520, applying only up to the months prior to your full retirement age. So you really work hard and then put the news on. But you get those back over time. It's just confusing for people feeling, wait a minute, they're taking my money away. Well, we got to work around the numbers and make sure you're okay. Then I think misunderstanding spousal benefits is a big one. Never assume the Social Security office knows everything. When one spouse applies for Social Security office, they do not always know that you're married. They don't know that you were divorced. They don't know all those kinds of things. They don't know who's the biggest earner. They do, they probably won't look too deep to get it because you're so swamped. I always tell people, make sure that the Social Security agent you're working with, if you go to the office, knows your marital status. And when you go to apply and set up your program online, your automatic access, you need all that information. You know, even if I was married before and divorced, if I was married for at least 10 years, then I can qualify possibly for my previous spouse's benefits. But you need all that information. And it's really hard to, and you can find it out, but let's see here. When the second spouse applies, do the same thing to ensure that you're maximizing your benefits out, because you might be able to step up and get extra if you're the early spouse that retired that was making less. Divorced spouses, there's a lot of people that don't understand that, but I remember one time I had a client that came to me, they're going to get divorced, and she said they're pushing me to get, sign the paperwork this week. I'm like, wait a minute. You're like a week away from being 10 years of marriage. Delay it. And wait and sign after that 10-year number clicks. Because it doesn't change the ex-spouse's magic income stream off of Social Security, but man, it made a huge monster difference for this person. Because they were the big breadwinner and ran the business. Well, she stayed home and took care of the household. So, if you take the widow's benefits, there's some other ones. You have to stay single if you're going to take off an ex-spouse's benefit. You can't get remarried. That's going to blow that up. There's lots and lots of stuff out there. If you dig into some of this stuff, it's amazing. We don't, big divorce planners, so we don't get into that as much as some people probably do. There's benefits for children and family members. I think you have to kind of like get in there and dig for that. I plugged a few of those in because it's amazing. There's a household benefit. You just want to make sure maybe people that don't apply for some of those benefits need to look at that. Young mothers that are widowed, spouses that have kids, there's lots of benefits that maybe would be available for them. If you were widowed when they were 20s, 30s, or 40s, or 50s, the surviving children may be entitled to benefits until they go to college, till age 19. They're still in school, and there's a family benefit. So there's lots of opportunities out there. I think it's not just an old person's retirement benefit anymore. If you look into it and start digging up some things down the road. That's why I go with the Ed Slott and these guys can do all your research and you can look into their stuff and dig the answers out. Obviously, we all know the state of Iowa is not taxing your Social Security benefits or pensions or IRA income for retirement income. There's only 10 states left that tax Social Security benefits of residents, so you might not want to retire in those states. Is there any on there that you were thinking about going to? We work with their advisors, to our clients, CPAs and attorneys constantly, trust officers. We love people like that because then we can do a whole plan, figure out what the best thing is as a team. Just make sure that people are good, educated on their decision to make their Social Security when they want to turn that on. That's one of the biggest things I have is just making sure you know what you're talking about, because the Social Security office doesn't always know. You get 3 different answers. Questions. And then I just threw this in because I thought this was a good little hoop sheet on all kinds of stuff. That's it. I don't want to belabor you guys too much, but questions. I know on beneficiaries on IRAs, you guys run into that where like nobody's checked their beneficiary for 15 years. Still mom and dad. They've been married for 10. Okay. We run into headaches. We've had some that it is. This is an example. And I swear to God, we looked at the beneficiaries. We started doing beneficiary audits because it's just a nightmare when the people think they know what it is and it's not. You're like, bring it in. Let's see it. I want to see it black and white. It's like checking an x-ray. I want to see the x-ray. But she had been she was paying the premiums out of their checkbook for his insurance. I mean, it was a substantial amount of life insurance. Wasn't with us, but I said, okay, let's double check, make sure that this is how the beneficiary listed. She went to the person. I don't know if she just didn't send it in or what happened, but the beneficiaries were never changed. And this was the second marriage. He still had on his sister and brother. So here we are. fast forward 10 years of being married, he passes away. We apply for the death benefit and we find out it's not her. It's his brother and sister who he hasn't talked to in how many years. And you cannot change. I mean, that's done. You try to write nice little letters and say, hey, but nope, that's their money and they kept it, and then it really split the family up worse. But it's only because you forgot to check that skinny little line or somebody didn't. So we've been really persistent at that. And I've had ones where mom and dad are still on there. Or we used to, I don't, now everybody's as old as me, but used to have a stamp we put on those things to be divided equally among the children of the insured or, and then for stirpies. Well, then you got to go back and prove to all these companies anymore who these people are. It's so much better. We've been doing, okay, well, how do we know that their kids are really their kids? So you got to go get birth certificate, and you can't blame the insurance companies because they don't want to pay it out to the wrong person. So we've been really, really going back to some of those and making sure everybody's name's on there, every social's on there, every birthday's on there. We got your email, we got your cell phone number. Your address is going to change 15 times, but most people keep their cell and their email address. And people don't live at home around home anymore. They're all over the country. And they're like, well, they're in California and this one's in New York and this one's in. So it's really hard to get a hold of those people and they move 3 times. And sometimes parents don't know exactly the address. You ever notice that? But we always go after the cell and their email because that's some way of being able to get a hold of them. But, you can run into some headaches with beneficiaries of some large numbers. But anybody else have some headaches?
The ex-spouse situation that we talked about at the state planning council that I brought up. Where if and I certainly didn't realize this, but if an ex-spouse is named on as the beneficiary of anything, life insurance, whatever, the day the divorce is final, that becomes null and void. And that was 10 or so years ago in the state of Iowa, or maybe more. I can't remember when it was. Natalie, do you remember any of the attorneys? So we had, and rarely is that the case that somebody wants an ex-spouse, but there was a case
where they
pretty
did.
close to me, a friend of mine. And he and his wife had gotten through a very amicable divorce. 2 kids, 2 sons, 6 and 8 years old. She had cancer. She wanted him to be the beneficiary, the ex-spouse. She knew he trusted him to care for the kids, etc. And he asked others, in other advisors, etc., am I okay? This is a policy. I'm paying the premiums on this for her. She doesn't have much money, etc. And it was a $500,000 death benefit. And so she died and he's not getting it. It went to her state because of the law change in Iowa that makes it null and void. If they would have had to, my understanding is she would have had to have proactively gone in, get a new beneficiary form after the divorce was final to list him. So it's a rare occurrence, but it really hit this friend of mine right between the eyes.
I'll bet.
And so, yeah. So now, thankfully, he gets along well with the ex-mother-in-law. She's the trustee, but she's getting close to 80 years old, etc. And there's a trust then that was in his will.
What a
The
nightmare.
kids. Yeah, it's
That little skinny line controls so much money sometimes.
Yeah, and it's been enforced for a long time, and it was surprising the number of, I think some of the attorneys that lived with, they even said they weren't aware of that necessarily, right? Or maybe, I know that some of the advisors.
I've had it,
No,
yeah.
So that made me feel a little better, but when it first happened, it's like, I said, hey, if you would have asked me, I would have said, you're fine.
Yeah, you should be.
That life insurance company has to pay you. That's who she has as beneficiary.
So because the divorce decree didn't mention it, maybe.
In most states, a lot of states have it that way,
Wow.
that when the divorce is final.
You better reduce that.
Yep.
I've had it where the divorce was done and it was in a 401k plan. And they didn't rename the ex-spouse to somebody else. And it went there to the ex.
Okay, how long ago?
Oh, God. Probably 10 years ago.
Maybe it was about the time that
Yeah.
change took
10, 12
place
years
then or
ago.
something.
So yeah, you get a rude awakening when you're like, now you checked everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
got it
that's the
all.
way it would usually.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
checked it
hey, I
all. Are
didn't
you
get
sure?
it done.
Yes, I've checked it all. And then he passed away and here comes this 401k plan. We're like, oh, you're not the Benny. You want to tell her or you want me to tell her? We got a large number and it's going to the X and it went to the X and there wasn't anything they could, so it was probably before that law changed.
It might have been.
It was like, oh my
I can't
God,
remember the year right
you know,
now,
just,
time.
yeah.
And then if the estate is named, that can be on IRA money, that can be a real issue for a spouse because my understanding is the spouse can't even take it as a spousal, can't stretch it out over his or her lifetime. It's a 5 years
Right.
that they have to get it.
Better
out
off
if
in the
it's-
trust. That's set up correctly.
I think it's the same with the trust.
But I think
But
if they're set up like a conduit trust correctly, I think that. you
with
can-
IRA money?
Yes.
Okay,
That you can go into the 10-year and if it's like, okay, so we have one right on the plate right now that there's a disabled beneficiary and trying to check that out, but disabled beneficiary can stretch it out over their lifetime. So, but it'd have to be
Right.
through the trust. So hopefully the law firm set this all up greatly, perfect, because that she has issues, you know, mental issues. And so a lot of it goes to the trust. And 15 times I asked, want this in the trust? I'm really worried about this, nervous. Nope, it's in the trust. We have it set up correctly. We'll see.
Matt had a case that was different, but it was a 401k and that's a different set of rules. Not related to the next spouse thing, but related to something going to an estate.
I think you got paid to estate.
Instead of kids or
Well, when it's not a,
No name beneficiary, so paid to the estate.
taxable.
Taxable, yes.
and that was an ERISA plan or
Correct.
a retirement, you know, an employer sponsored plan, as opposed to a traditional IRA.
I mean, it's that, there's lots of fun stuff. Any other questions?
Hey, what was the name of the newsletter that you mentioned?
Oh, Ed Slot, oh, this, it's at the bottom here,
Bottom.
but you have to be a member of the Ed Slot, you know, you pay a membership thing, but Ed Slot is a guru on, you know, IRAs. State, he's an IRA guru. But then he asked a couple of people in here, but she's the guru on this. But if you ever need one, I can always use. Send it to you. I do that. I say, don't worry, you guys, I'm a member. I'll send it to you. So you didn't hear me say that, did you? Anything else? Again, everybody's got to get back to the office. Check on beneficiaries. I know, it's just, you went, oh, mistakes, just freak you out and you're like, holy God, you guys, we need to do an audit.
Yeah.
You know, you do, and you just kind of get busy and 10 years goes by, 15 years go by, and people think they know what they're talking about. Oh, I know I have it right. Let's make sure. Yeah.
I was just gonna mention, one of my earliest memories at the foundation involved Pat and an attorney and a trust officer, and I believe, a financial planner.
Yeah.
When we sat down with one of your clients who was looking at leaving a large land gift through the community foundation. And it was just so cool to be a part of that team that was supporting that individual who passed away just a few years after we had had that conversation. And they had put together a memorandum of understanding with the community foundation. So all the assets came through the foundation, and now our foundation is sending out, I think it's like 15 checks a year
Yes.
to nonprofits across our region on behalf of this generous individual. And it was like, wow, this is really cool work. I think I'll do this. Yeah, it's fun. So thank you for opening that door. That was really
Yeah,
cool.
and it's funny because how that person had it before was like, I don't know who has to administrate this nightmare, but you know, it's a lot of work to process all those beneficiaries and find everybody and make sure it's done right. But yeah, doing it this way is easier. Way easier. Because you don't know if those charities are gonna be around. I don't know. They might be gone.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I think we maybe did have one. I mean, just so people understand how a memorandum of understanding works with the foundation. So like in this case, I believe that one of his 15 charities no longer is operational. So then our board uses our variance power to either realign it. It depends on how the MOU is written, right? I don't remember for sure, but it can be either or. It can be that if one or more ceases to exist, that their percentage would just be merged into the remaining nonprofits on the list. Or it can be that, like, let's say that it was directed to a food bank, and then the food bank just changed its name right?
Right.
Then our board could come in, use our variance power and say, well, now it's not that food bank. Now it's the Northeast Iowa food bank, right? So we would redirect that so that check could continue to still go out, carrying out donor intent.
Right.
So, but it's one check that has to come from the estate to the community foundation, and then all those charities get their annual checks.
Or one big IRA check.
Right, or one big IRA check. Yeah.
Well, then they can just come here to redo their MOU without having to change their will or their trust.
Or 50 different beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Which sometimes always get done.
Right.
You know? Yeah, just slips through the cracks. It's a big crack when it opens up. Yeah. No, we love working with you guys. In fact, I have one person now I'm trying to, convince them they should come in, and they have all these ideas, grandiose ideas, and they have large amounts that they want to do. And I'm like, so I might pick on you. All right, sounds great. Thank you,
Great,
guys.
thanks, Brad.